This is very exciting for me. It's Flex. Flex?
It is me, it is I.
You're obviously known as an author, media personality, host, DJ, and business owner. But can you tell us how you actually got started?
Yes, I will do the really condensed version because it doesn't need to be complex. But I was working in PR at the time. So I think I would have been like 19 or 20, working in PR after doing unpaid internships in PR for a year, maybe more. And then studying PR, but dropping out like 3 months in because I was like, I'll just get a job. I think I'll just learn on the go. So I remember being really burnt out because, like I said a million times before, I didn't choose PR because I knew what it was. I was watching The Hills at the time, and it was like this reality TV show on literally on MTV, and there was this big boss woman called Kelly Catrone. And I was like, yeah, she's sick. Like, we've got a matriarch energy, and all she does is go to work, make stuff happen. She's amazing. She's like a go-getter and just like a MacGyver of a person. And I was like, I want to do that. And even if I didn't aspire to be her, the women that worked for her, it seemed like all they did was get dressed up, go to work, and rely on their social skills and their personality for career progression. I was like, this is perfect. And then actual PR is not that at all. At least not as, a junior in PR. And then I was really burnt out and hating it, and thought to myself, maybe I just need another job, like a more fun one. And so I started looking for another job, and then I came across this listing for a door girl at a club. And I was like, yes, sick. I can be a door girl. That's fun. That sounds exactly like the archetype of the PR girls, right? You get dressed up, you go to work, you chit chat, use your personality. And so I did do that. And then I met promoters because at this time, almost 10 years ago now, promoters were a really big thing. Like, people you relied on to curate parties and curate people. Making friends with promoters, and I let them know that I worked in PR and that I could give them tips on business management. Why? What did I know? I was 20. But I did, because I had ideas. I'm like, these are great ideas. You should listen to me. And the core thing, or the cornerstone of what transitioned from that to Flex, is that they were booking DJs from 9 to midnight. Nobody went to the club then. And so I would be working the door and nobody would be there. So there's no, DJs coming in to get to play, me at the door letting nobody in, everybody having like the worst time. And so I said, why don't you guys just save your money? You DJ from 9 to 12, bring your own friends in, have your own kind of prees just in the club, And they were kind of like, we don't really want to DJ though. We want to hang out and not work. And I was like, well, then you need to start providing a platform for newer DJs or people that you can assist, who are going to appreciate the time slot, not these well-seasoned DJs who find it embarrassing to come and DJ at a club at 9 o'clock and nobody's there. And they said, well, we don't know any up-and-coming DJs. And I was like, I could DJ. Meanwhile, I'm employed by the venue, by the way, to be there from 9 to 3. And now I'm like offloading my services to DJ from 9 to midnight. And then they said, do you know how to DJ? And I said, no, but I'm sure I could learn. And then I taught myself with a combination of YouTube and also asking the venue if I could go there during off hours to use the equipment. And they said yes. And then I guess because at the time I was like 19, 20, a club kid, I was always out. I dressed in a really loud way. I was building a social network. And so when it came time to book jobs, it was an extension of what I had already been doing, showing up. And then I needed a DJ name. So those promoters who became friends, we created a round table and I said, I need a DJ name. Let's brainstorm. Flex.
You're speaking on the topic of marketing being so important. And, obviously you've worked in PR and marketing. I have as well. And I can see that it really does shine through in your personal brand and your platforms that you run. And obviously the businesses as well. So how crucial do you think it is to nail that online presence, the branding these days, even with design, graphic design, How important do you think that is for people who are starting something out as well?
If you're starting something out with no money, and when I say no money, I mean you're not a Nepo baby, you don't have friends and family that you can go and ask for $20,000, then the best thing you can do is not to be an expert at everything, but to be at least proficient in your understanding of how things work. Because the mistake that I've made time and time again in my business is, one, assuming people know way more than I do. And of course, people know stuff that I don't know. But when you're paying for that service, when you're paying a Facebook ad agency a retainer of $5,000 a month, at the very least, you're expecting to make that back minimum and then some. And then you don't. And so you're here assuming that, well, maybe I don't understand. And because I don't understand, I can't ask questions. I can't advocate for myself. I can't call out the inconsistencies. I can't request for, a better result because I don't know what you're doing. And if I knew what you were doing, I'd be able to say, actually, are you bidding against what cost per click? Is this cost per engagement? What's going on? And then suddenly we're having a productive conversation about what this transaction is for, right? I think it can go both ways. Some people want to do everything in a really stingy way, and as the saying goes, you have to spend money to get money. But also, I think fundamentally your business needs to have expenses, right? It just is how business works. And so if you're trying to avoid spending any money, then you're gonna start making decisions that aren't business minded, which is not helpful. On the other end, if you get into the habit very early on of running your business in a very luxurious way and wanting to throw money at every minor inconvenience, you also won't make any money. I also feel like if you're the business owner, you need to be the revenue builder. The things that you contribute to your business need to be making you money. You can't just be the ideas person. You can't just be the person that's there for vibes. You can't just be really good at admin. You can't just be a really good warehouse pick and packer. You on your own with no support, with no other resources, need to be able to make your business money. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Because what ends up happening is that you start outsourcing, and you outsource in an inefficient way because you don't know how to brief, because you don't have an understanding of what your product is because somebody else made it. You don't have an understanding of what your unique selling point is because you don't know anything about the product. You don't have an understanding of what is a good price to pay for staff or for an office space because you didn't look at the invoice. You have no idea. And while it's flattering to be empty head and to not have an understanding of what's going on, it's not good for long-term success. I've made that mistake as well. You get support and you think, great, I take it off my plate. No. If anything, you add more to your plate because you're now delegating. I will also say, there is nothing like comprehension. You just can't fake comprehension. You either understand or you don't understand. If someone was to ask you, is that a good press release? You'd be like, yeah or no. Is that a good social media post? Yeah or no. You just have a natural understanding because you've been in this industry. Is that a good podcast? Yeah. Is that person a great public speaker? Yeah, sure. I get a vibe. If you don't know, then you can't make up for it in any other capacity. You just can't bypass the understanding. That's why, for example, like when you talk to a graphic designer and you tell them like what's the one thing that you hate that clients do, they'll all say the same thing. Every client with no graphic design experience will be like, can you just make it pop? I just want to make it pop. Pop is not a thing that you can do. What do you want to do? Do you want to make it more bold, more saturated, more angular? Do you want it to evoke a certain emotion? What are you asking for? It's almost the equivalent of, it's the equivalent of, if you're someone who's worked in hospitality, you can tell when you're interacting with someone in that context who hasn't. If you're someone who's worked in clothing retail, you can tell when you're interacting with someone who hasn't. You don't know the verbiage, you don't know the shared experiences, you don't get it. So when you're running a business, and unfortunately you need to be the all-seeing eye because everything funnels through you, the best thing you can do is say, okay, I'm not going to become a graphic designer to make a t-shirt. That's not necessary. But then start mining information. When you go to Google and type in theprintbar.com and you want to get a t-shirt made, go talk to customer service and ask, what weight is this t-shirt? Can I print color onto this t-shirt? Is it pre-shrunk? Is it going to shrink in the wash? Like, ask yourself questions, so at least you're armed with knowledge, and then you don't have to bypass knowledge by becoming proficient in designing t-shirts from scratch to design a t-shirt. It's something like I think it's so important. And to be honest, if you're thinking, oh, I do a side hustle now, and I give people budgeting advice so they can buy a house because I'm currently budgeting for a house. So I'm learning on the go. That's fine, right? But how much better would it be if the information that you were giving you were sure was accurate, right? And so you start doing additional research. You say, well, I saw the cash rate went up 25 points, and I was checking on the RBA this, and then I also read that ING has a better interest rate for savings. Like, that would make you way more proficient at running your business or giving a service, right? Not just being like, from my personal experience, XYZ. Your personal experience isn't a viable business. Let's say I wanted to make my own fashion, let's do makeup. I wanted to make my own makeup brand, right? And so you might be tempted to go to your friend who is the most proficient person in makeup and ask them a bunch of questions. You don't know if your friend will ever buy from you. Your friend is also biased. They might not trust your ability to make this come true or whatever. What I would do then is say, if I don't know what I don't know, then go and seek out more of what you want to understand. So let's say I wanted to make the glossiest lip gloss ever. I would Google, what's the glossiest lip gloss ever right now? What's the top 10? Then go through and suss them. Why are they different? What's making them heaps glossy? Is that one got oil in it? Is that why? Is that one a balm? Is that why? Okay, cool. Then I'm going to go to all those Facebook groups of makeup enthusiasts, and I'm going to ask them questions. I'm going to oversee what they're talking about. Why they don't like this Glossier brand. Why do you like Rare Beauty? That's so interesting. Then I'm going to go to TikTok, where everyone is yip yapping in the comments, and I'm going to start a conversation. Oh, I saw that YSL lip gloss. I saw that Dior lip oil. Is it even good? And you're going to mine data that way. Then let's say at the very least, if you're going to go to a manufacturer, you can say, hey, here's everything I've known about what I do and don't want my lip gloss to be like. I want it to be really glossy, but I don't want it to be sticky. I want it to be really glittery, but I want to compromise on the shine. And then they'll tell you, well, this is what you need to consider. Do you know what I mean? I think people often want to bypass any of the actual work required to ensure that they're not just throwing shit at a wall and seeing if it sticks. There is ways to kind of see if something is a good idea or a bad idea before you outlay all your time, money, and energy into it.
Where are you kind of really focusing your energy and time at this point?
Focusing my energy on anything that's owned completely by me.
If you're promoting your own products and your own projects, that, directly benefits you. So it makes sense to focus your energy on your own projects now.
Literally. And everyone's going to find what that looks like for themselves. I was talking to a friend the other day, and I was telling her that I started making a personal shift a couple years ago to try not to give unsolicited advice, just respecting the fact that people got to do things in their own way and in the way that works for themselves. And so when it's requested, I'll do it. I'll give it like it's my job. But when it's not, because I recognize the dissonance between how I view life and how life is. And I think that in my head, I operate life with the privilege of a white man because I refuse to live in reality. I totally understand the systems and structures in place that limit me from ever achieving the same goals as certain counterparts. I totally get that. But for me, I have to start bulldozing. And not everyone can do that, because bulldozers, they get hurt in the process. They're just not sentient. So they can't tell you. But they're hurting, it sucks, it's relentless and whatever. And so when it comes to career advice, unconventional modern career advice, you're allowed to really do whatever you want. But when you're reinventing the wheel, that means you have to start from scratch. And that is the one thing people keep missing. You can't bypass beginning. You can't bypass infancy. You can't bypass childhood, adolescence, adulthood. You have to do all the steps to get to the destination. whether you want to go to adolescence first, like you'll find you're going to hit a roadblock that's going to take you back down to infancy, and then you need to start again. I'm not the type of person that's like, oh my God, love the journey. I hate the journey. I don't want to do the journey. But one day you'll thank yourself that that huge mistake you made only reached 1,000 people. Only reached, you only lost $100. Because one day you're going to get to a decision, speaking from my own experience, you're going to rush yourself into something because your ego is telling you it's amazing. You're not going to read your contracts properly. You're going to want to break a contract. It's going to cost you $25,000. You're going to lose the money that you thought you were going to make. You're going to have to start from scratch over the course of a year. Is that fun? No, just take your time and realize that you have more time than you have. I think like for a lot of people as well, the time that you spent mulling over the idea, not really starting on it, asking your friends about it, feeling disheartened, then feeling motivated. Someone's done it, failed, done it again, failed the second time, on their fifth idea, executing. And for that reason, there's so much more ahead in their journey than you will be. And so if you have this fear of failure, or maybe it's a fear of success, who knows what it means, it's respecting where you are on your journey and respecting your lane. It's sometimes when I have to humble myself sometimes, and I think, I want insert career goal that like I think of career goals I have that only like 60-year-olds have because they've been working for 45 years. And I'm like, okay, I need to respect my lane right now. Like I haven't worked as hard or as long as they have. And similarly, if you're just starting out your new side hustle, maybe don't look at Flex's Instagram and think, I want to do what she's doing. Respect your lane. You got to respect the CV sometimes and say, like, I remember somebody asked me one time, like, do you feel annoyed when people call you an influencer? And I'm like, no, because at one point it really frustrated me because I was thinking like, maybe I wouldn't have DJ'd for almost a decade and done hosting and presenting for 5 years and started a bajillion businesses if all I had to do was be an influencer to be regarded as like important or worthy of like working with. But the fact is, if that's the case, if it was in conjunction with doing all these things just to be called an influencer, let me just leverage it then. What's there to be mad about? Let's get this bread.
I know you're such a like kind of analytical and like, introspective kind of person. So like, has there been something in your career where it's really just been a moment you wish you could relive and you wish like you could almost just frame it and like put it in a bottle and keep it forever?
No. Do you know why I say that though? And if I'm gonna be real with you, I don't like work. I don't like working. I wouldn't work. Like for me, if I'm gonna be honest, working is a necessary journey to making money. And the only reason why I want to make money is so I have access to a lifestyle that wasn't the one I grew up with. It wasn't the one my mum had. It's not the one my relatives have. It's not the one the majority have. I want to live a life of leisure. I want to live a life of excess, comfort. And unfortunately, in the way that I want it, I have to do these things. I have to, quote unquote, make a certain amount of money, commit to a certain level of output to get there. If that wasn't necessary, then I wouldn't do it. Like some people believe in hypergamy. Some people believe in marrying rich or dating up. That's hard work as well. I don't have the capacity for that. Like in order to go find a rich person who wants to marry me, then be signed in to get the benefits. That's hard work. I don't want to do that. And so the thing that I've had to do, and if you had asked me this question 5 years ago, I probably would have been able to think of something. But unfortunately, I'm not sure. Once you hit a lot of career milestones, it feels the same. And by that, I mean, in my biological body, like I only have the capacity to feel so much happiness and so much sadness, right? We all do. We have a happiness set point. No matter how good you feel, how bad you feel, it always comes back to neutral. And with that in mind, I think that I've been able to have quite a neutral perspective in retrospect because the journey to get there, it wasn't like exciting and like really fun. What's exciting to me is like going on holidays with my friends. And because it wasn't exciting, for the first 5 years of my career, I didn't go to any friends' birthdays. I didn't take any breaks. I didn't take any holidays. I worked every single day. I stressed myself out. I burnt out. I made myself sick. It wasn't fun. And so, of course, I did all those things to get to the goal. But when I got to the goal, I was like, of course I would win this award. I worked so hard. Of course I would get a book deal. You don't see how hard I worked? You're like, what are you talking about? Like, of course, this is warranted. And the natural progression of the work and the effort I put in. So I wouldn't. And I think that, like, that to me is what's motivating me now, because my motivation in the last, I would say before 2020 even, my motivation was upward mobility always in terms of career progression. I want to do the next coolest thing, the next coolest thing, the next coolest thing, and the next coolest thing. And then but I also want to be alive until I'm 100. And I don't want to be doing the next coolest thing till 100. The next stage is like contentment, but also sustainable